We are on the brink of a major bull market. Engaging more with the Bitcoin only community is where I really learned about, Austrian economics and what makes sound money, what is good money, what is bad money. That's why we went all in Bitcoin and also decided that we will not add any others. We have also built a team around that. All the investors that we have onboarded are really in that same mindset and are aligned with that Bitcoin only vision.
When I see the adoption of Bitcoin, we see El Salvador, we see Argentina, we see Nigeria, we see so many poor countries that have to adopt Bitcoin because they frankly have no choice. I tried to find one of the first tweets you ever made.
You have to scroll for hours probably, and second, oh my god,
It's there's a feature on Twitter where you can search for dates. Like you can search I want to see everything before 2020, and I just did that. And there was like one tweet, like December 2019, where you talk about the future of crypto assets and the benefits of tokenization. And it was interesting because it was like this not Bitcoin only mindset, and I think in first April of 2020, so like 4 or 5 months later, you founded a Bitcoin only company. Like what changed in the time, or was really not intended to be Bitcoin only?
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people don't know, is that we didn't start necessarily consciously as a Bitcoin only startup. We started as a Bitcoin only startup just because we had to start somewhere. But from the beginning, we were actually the team back then, which was also a bit different than the team now, thought that we just want to give easy access to crypto. And so crypto, basically the biggest thing was Bitcoin, right? So then we started with Bitcoin, but we were already thinking about adding Ethereum for sure, because the two people I actually then worked with, and Adam, my co-founder, who's also on this podcast previously, who was not yet really involved then, but these two guys, one was a techie and one was more like a business guy. They both were not ETH maxis, but like more ETH than anything else. So we just started with Bitcoin because it was easy and it was the most well known, etc. But we're already thinking about adding others. Fortunately, then actually this was just also a learning process for me and for the team. And we got a lot of community feedback that this is not a good idea, and especially just Bitcoiners and the Bitcoin Maxi crowd on Twitter, etc., really liked what we did. Making it easy, accessible for everyone from $10 within a couple of minutes, buy Bitcoin and set up a savings plan with a very nice user-friendly mobile app, etc. So we just saw that this concept that we did worked really well with Bitcoiners, because also mostly also because of the same savings plan, right? So Bitcoin savings technology, digital gold, etc. You don't see a lot of ETH or Tesos or Cardano people who want to set up a long-term savings plan. Basically, what they want to do is gamble, speculate, you do ICOs and just make a lot of money fast. By trading and speculating, etc., but they are not really in this savings mindset. But what I also always wanted to do is, have an easy way of long-term saving and taking control of your own finances, etc. And I was just I thought crypto in general could be the solution for this problem, and only in this process, also with starting a company and engaging more with the different crypto communities and engaging more with the Bitcoin only community, is where I really learned about Austrian economics and what makes sound money, what is good money, what is bad money, and etc. And the digital gold narrative and all that. I only learned basically while I was starting the company. And so that's why we probably a couple of months later then really went all in Bitcoin, and also decided that we will not add any others, but really stay Bitcoin only and focus on improving the feature set for Bitcoin. but not adding all the other altcoins. And to this day, we have also built a team around that. All the investors that we have onboarded are really in that same mindset and are aligned with that Bitcoin only vision. This was not always easy, of course, to explain them, but I think now this in hindsight was a very, very good decision. And we keep developing forward with this Bitcoin only mindset, of course.
Yeah, I remember some tweets you sent out where you showed some slides and you said basically like, "Oh, I'm now at those investors," and I try to explain to them why we are not adding Ethereum, why we are not adding Cardano, and we are staying at Bitcoin only. It's a fascinating story that you started out with the mind like we are starting a crypto exchange, and in the process and also with the feedback of Bitcoiners, you focused on Bitcoin only and then learned about Bitcoin. It's a fascinating story. It's also fascinating that Swiss is so Bitcoin friendly, or like so, because I always see when I see the adoption of Bitcoin, we see El Salvador, we see Argentina, we see Nigeria, we see so many poor countries that have to adopt Bitcoin because they frankly have no choice.
Mm.
But then there's also Swiss, where there's Lugano, and there's other examples where like Swiss has one of the most sound money systems in the whole fiat realm. If you could make an argument for that, but
Mm.
still, other richer countries don't get Bitcoin. Why do Swiss people get Bitcoin over like Germany, over like America, so much more? As I feel it, like it's a subjective feeling I had from Swiss
Uh,
people.
I don't know if in general the data shows that Swiss people are adopting Bitcoin more than other similar countries. I know that around 15% of Swiss people own Bitcoin or have ever kind of touched Bitcoin or invested in Bitcoin. That to compared to other European countries is not like huge. It's maybe a bit more, but I don't think that Switzerland is the European country with the highest ratio there. I think Germany must be around 10, maybe 11, 12%. So it's not like a huge difference. Where we do see a lot of bottom up adoption is the countries that you have mentioned, like El Salvador. I don't know how much it is, maybe 20, 25%. I know Nigeria is like 30 plus percent. So these are the countries that really need it are the ones that really also adopt it and use it. And not only the early adopters, but also like later adoption is moving forward. In Switzerland, it's still, I would say, still early adopter phase. Some innovative people, some nerds, and some people that like to invest, etc., are touching Bitcoin. But mostly the broader population is still very passive. And also the media, etc., is still, they still write about the energy consumption of Bitcoin. It's still the old thinking. So I don't think that there's a lot of differences in that area to Germany, for example. I think where there's a big difference is that from a top-down perspective, like our government and our legislation, regulatory system is very open to not only Bitcoin but also other innovations in general. And we're also quite of a democratic and decentralized country from an organizational point of view. So we do let these things happen, I think, more than other countries, like, for example, Germany. And that's why not only Bitcoin, but also all the whole blockchain crypto ecosystem has started to settle in Switzerland, namely in Zug, called the Crypto Valley. So with the Ethereum Foundation, the Tesos Foundation, I think the Cardano Foundation, a lot of these foundations have settled in Switzerland just because the regulatory and legal and compliance frameworks are very good for these kind of innovations, if you want to call it like that. And also there's great talent, there's a lot of stability. The financial market authorities are very open, so you can actually discuss things with them, and they actually listen from time to time. There are a lot of sandbox environment things that you can do a lot of fintech, especially fintech innovation, where Bitcoin, blockchain, crypto, etc., is also under this roof, without having a banking license from the start. But until you have a certain amount of users, etc., you can just do stuff. You can try things out. So that's very good for innovation. The regulatory system is neutral to technology, so they don't regulate blockchain technology, Bitcoin, etc., differently than AI or whatever. They just regulate these technology startup companies, the same. So it's very fair, it's very open, it's democratic. So there are a lot of positive things, I think, that led to a lot of this industry settle in Switzerland and not elsewhere. That's why you have a lot of companies, a lot of employees, etc. here in that industry. But I don't think necessarily that there are much more Bitcoiners in the population in Switzerland than in any other countries in Europe.
Interesting that the top down does not affect the bottom up too much. It's an interesting perspective. Never looked at it in that way. Also, like I think in Swiss you can pay taxes in Bitcoin, right? Somewhere is it all everywhere?
Maybe
Or?
in Zug. So we also have 26 different cantons, right? Like you guys have Bundesländer, we have cantons, and every canton is very different in terms of tax and all kind of aspects. So I think you can pay taxes partly. I don't think you could pay like 20K in tax in Bitcoin, but partly up to a certain limit in Zug, Crypto Valley thing, but also a very small canton. Other than that, it's not a very important canton. And maybe now in Lugano, where I live in Bern, canton of Bern, I don't think I'm pretty sure you cannot pay your tax in Bitcoin. So it's not a Swiss thing. It's maybe one or two or three cantons. That's it.
Yeah,
So
but
these things are also.
even that they are open to it, I think it's fascinating. I could never imagine Austria being open to that, honestly.
Yeah. Austria and Germany are probably a bit the same. Yeah.
Did you studied business administration and psychology, as I heard on Adam podcast, right? It's an
Yeah, I
interest,
did.
and you worked in a bank also before?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So I did study psychology and business administration because psychology was my major and business only my minor in the bachelor's, and then I had to choose basically what I'm going to focus on in the master's, and then I focused on business. And while I was in my bachelor's, I did all sorts of small jobs, but then I also did an internship in a bank, Raiffeisen Bank, very traditional bank, but the third biggest or fourth biggest maybe bank nationally in Switzerland.
It's also big
And
in Austria.
yeah, and and then I stayed after the internship, which was I think 3 months over the semester, a vacation period, and then they wanted me to stay, so I stayed part time over the course of a year, and then finished my bachelor's, went to Australia, traveling, etc. So I stopped working at the bank. Not, it was more an internship or like traineeship than really working at the bank, and it was also enough. I knew after that I didn't want to go back to banking anymore.
But you experienced a little bit of the Fiat culture, I guess, back then, and like when you compare the Fiat culture and the Bitcoin culture in general, maybe also in the background with the psychology, like how different is the mindset of like Fiat workers and Bitcoin workers? Do you see a difference when someone is understanding a sound money system versus someone is just not understanding sound money system and
Mhm.
they rather invest the money in the local fiat currencies? Do you see the major
Mhm.
difference now also as a CEO of a Bitcoin company where there are like probably only or almost only Bitcoiners working there. I don't know all this stuff,
Mhm.
but I guess there are a lot of Bitcoiners working at Relay.
Yeah, definitely. So I think one big difference is the entrepreneurial mindset that Bitcoiners have, as opposed to a lot of people in the fiat system. I mean, especially in banking, right, where they are at the source of the whole fiat system, the heart of the whole fiat system, and they are not there to innovate. They are there to manage what is there, save costs, maybe increase efficiencies a little bit, max, optimize some things, mainly also politics. It's mainly also about just having meetings and making sure that you lick the right ass to get, a bit above the ladder, or, you can get up the ladder of hierarchy. So it's definitely very different than in Bitcoin, where we want to build a new foundation, right? We want to build a new technology, a new protocol, a new comes to Bitcoin has this kind of revolutionary, entrepreneurial spirit, wants to change the world to the better, wants to, do stuff out of passion, out of purpose, and people that have a lot of drive. They come from tech or from other fields, also from marketing, whatever, and they want to contribute to making this happen, this revolution. Whereas, it's very different in the fiat system. In the banks, they just want to get by, they want to work 9 to 5, and ideally 5 past 5 they are at home and watching Netflix or whatever they do in their free time. That's definitely a big differentiator why I also wanted to move into such an industry, and not I could not be around these people. This was for me like living death situation. Also, I think Bitcoiners tend to question things much more. The fiat people, most of these people I worked with in this bank, they didn't understand money or the fiat financial system, and they also didn't really care to understand. They understood their job, what they need to do, and they understood a little bit of what they read in probably the textbooks of their financial education, etc. But they didn't really question, whether it makes sense or not to just have a central bank, printing as much money as they want, since we got off the gold standard in the 70s. Like, and why we need to have inflation and interest rates that always change, why we have why the US has a debt of like 34 trillion that they will never ever be able to even come close to paying back. All these things that Bitcoiners are just always challenging and questioning. Fiat people or bankers would not necessarily do that. They are just one part of a big machinery, and they just work, they do their stuff, but they would never question. And then last but not least, I think they mostly are more short-term oriented. They have short-term perspectives. They want to make as much money as quickly as possible and then spend it for their pleasure, uh, and to get a better life, etc. They all want to buy a house. They want to buy a car. They want to go on holidays. They want to do these short-term pleasure, like hedonistic lifestyle things. Whereas I think Bitcoiners are much more about building and preserving wealth over generations, and making things that last, like also a foundational financial system that lasts over generations. They're not in it for the quick buck, get rich quick, etc. These kind of mindsets are more prevalent, more long term in Bitcoiners, I think. So if a fiat or banker would build a house, for example, or an apartment, whatever, they would do it as quickly as possible, as cheap as possible, so that they can, with a high profit, rent it out, and then that's their goal, right? But it would maybe break in 10 or 20 years. Whereas if a Bitcoiner would build a house, then he would try to make it last forever, so that he could even his children could inherit it, and it could just last decades, maybe even centuries. These are maybe the three biggest differences I would see.
Did you have those mindsets also when you started really out, or or questioning other way around? What did drive you to like found a company, not work in a company, being that entrepreneurial mind? Was it something that was founded in your company, in your family? I mean, or did this came from where did this like drive came to like start a company with like it takes a lot of bravery. I think also if like there was nothing there was no proven concept. They have a Bitcoin only thing in Swiss. Like where did this came from?
I'm not sure. I never really, to the end, analyzed or reflected this, but I think it's not really inherited from my family. I think my mom and my dad both are not entrepreneurs. My grandpa is actually an entrepreneur. He founded his own company, small enterprise, but otherwise it's not. We cannot. I cannot say I come from a family that it was necessarily entrepreneurial or wealthy or cared about money at all. My mom was a bit of a hippie, and she's a pharmacist, and my dad is a teacher, English teacher, and plays music and is an artist as well. So, but it's not like it never really was about a lot of discussions about money or building businesses or whatever. This was never a topic at all when I was a kid. And first, I also wanted to go into more social, psychology, etc. But I think it's a lot about just my personality, and personalities are usually you are kind of born into, but also you are you know, depending on the experiences that you make as a child and growing up, this forms your personality. And I think I'm a personality that wants to start things. I have drive, I have ambition. Somehow, I can't just do a 9 to 5 job. A lot of people out there, they're very happy with these given structures, being one small part in a big corporate organization. Everything is taken care of. The structure is clear. They know exactly what to do every minute of their day, and every day is exactly the same. That's all fine. I'm not saying that's bad. Most of the people are like that, but I'm not like that. I'm also not very good with authority. So I was in the army. Wasn't very good as a soldier. I was better as an officer. I then made my way to an officer, and so there it was. It was okay because at least I had some more freedom than a soldier. Because as a soldier, you're just you just basically every minute of the day is just planned for you, and you just need to function like a machine. And I can't do that. I need to be. I'm more creative. I want to drive things, move things forward, push things, think out of the box, be innovative, start new things. I get bored quickly, so I want to always work on new things. But also I want to see things through. So I want to work on something for years, but grow it. I would not want to continue on the same level for years. I always want to change. I want more. I want growth and blah blah. So that kind of this entrepreneurial drive probably I had already when I studied psychology without really knowing it. I always had projects. I started an association. Then I did organize a lot of events. I traveled a lot. I tried different things out, always different sports, etc. So I was always like that. Then there was a seminar when I did my master's degree in business. There was Everything was about corporate business in Bern, where I studied, because this city is basically, it's not like Zurich, where there's a lot of startup things going on. Bern is very traditional, very stable, and basically the University of Bern, when it comes to business, they prepare you for a corporate job, because you have the Swiss Post in Bern, obviously the government, the Swiss National Bank, and a couple of insurance. All the Swiss railways, they're all in Bern. So all these big boring corporate companies are there. So that's also why the University of Bern is basically preparing you for this kind of boring job. And that was not for me, but there was one seminar that was called Being an Entrepreneur. So this was basically about entrepreneurship, startup, venture capital, etc. And this was really like blowing my mind. This really inspired me to, and I was like, okay, now finally I know what I want to do. I want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know until then. I was maybe 20, 21, until I had this seminar, and then I really knew, okay, that's what I want to be. I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to be a psychologist or whatever else I thought I want to be before. I wanna do this. I wanna start my company.
I'm super excited to announce that this podcast just got the first ever sponsor. I just started the podcast out like 3 months ago, and now we have 21 Bitcoin as a partner for this podcast. 21 Bitcoin is Bitcoin only from day one, and they teach and preach self custody. This is my go to exchange when someone asks me, oh, where can I buy my Bitcoin from? This is the easiest entry for Bitcoiners. And if you want lower fees, plus at the same time support this podcast, use code Robin and click the link in the description. That's an amazing story. And also, like, I had Adam on before, and I
Yeah.
also had Arsen on like 2 days ago. I will have also Immo on, I think in March, like a month from now, and someone else involved in Relay with the Ego Dev Capital. Jeff Booth will come on Tuesday.
Wow.
Uh,
Great
so, uh,
job. Nice.
so it will be a whole picture of Relay and all the players around Relay. Will be interesting to see. Maybe I make a compilation for Relay.
That would be
uh,
nice. There are a couple of more, right? We are 22 full-time employees now, so you can go on and everyone. Benjamin would also be nice. He can talk about Relay Private and Relay Business and like the high net
oh,
worth
that would be actually
individuals,
interesting. Yeah.
the guys that invest 500,000 or 1 million into Bitcoin. This would also be interesting.
That would be really interesting because I come from my like Fiat job that I still have, kind of also what Benjamin does for Relay. Just for I'm selling not Bitcoin though in high volumes. I'm selling IT security in high volumes.
Hmm.
It's completely different. It's also like there's a lot of Fiat mindset going on in that world, and
Hmm.
that I probably is different when you're selling high ticket price, high Bitcoin to high net worth individuals.
Yeah,
So that would be an interesting one, I think. But what I
definitely.
wanted to ask is when Adam was talking about the first 3 months, is he was like in a situation where like I think his daughter was also born,
Son, yeah.
and or son was born, and you got I think was 15,000 euros or 12,000 euros in the starting for the first
Mm.
month, something like that. Like how was the first 3 months, and how did it progress further, and was there ever a moment where like, oh shit, this is not working out?
Oh, several moments, so many moments where we thought it's never going to work. So really, where it all started was I had the idea, I think, back in 2008, end of 2018. Not even the idea, but like the desire of, hey, we need something like that, and I wanted to have an app like that where you can, it's easy for everyone to download, and with a low amount you can buy Bitcoin. You can set up a savings plan. That's what I was looking for me, because I hate complexity. I'm not a tech guy. I wanted, easy, couple of clicks, buy Bitcoin, and I want to set up a savings plan to automate. But also for a lot of my friends or family who started to ask more about Bitcoin and wanted to have something that I can recommend them. So I was looking for it, didn't find it, let's say in Q4 2018. And so Q1 2019, then we decided to, okay, let's put a group of people together and start working with that, just purely as a hobby. And there, Adam was already kind of involved, but very low level. He was participating in a couple of meetings, but mainly it was these two other people that I mentioned before, who were more like the ETH heads. And also, by the way, Adam was still kind of ETH and crypto in general back then, and so was I. We were all like that. We're not like Bitcoin maxis yet. But then we started it as a hobby a little bit, and then in Q2 2019 we did a hackathon, the biggest fintech hackathon actually in Europe. It was in Zurich. So for 3 days, for a whole weekend, you get together with a small group of people and you work on an idea, on a prototype, on business model, on pitch deck, etc. And then you present it to a jury, and you can win prizes. It's really fun, and a lot of startups are being born out of these hackathon situations, and so was ours basically. So we did that with these people, so the two heads and Adam, and also one other team member that we met spontaneously there. And then we did that, and we made it quite far, like in the top 10 of these, I don't know, 50, 60 teams that were there. And from there on, we kept going. So that was already the that's where it kind of started, but it was still like a hobby. Maybe after that hackathon, it was kind of a project, but still, we didn't think that we actually, create a business out of it, an actual product that thousands of people would use. So it's kind of hard to say how the first months were going, because this was the whole year of 2019 was still this finding process where we worked a bit more on it, then a bit less, and all in our free time, at nights, at weekends, because Adam still had his software agency, development agency that he was running. So he was already an entrepreneur then. And I still had to finish my studies, and I was working part time as a consultant, 60% in Zurich. So only beginning of like Q1 2020, we reckoned that, okay, we want to bring this live, because we had an MVP that was working with a couple of test users. We had a website, we had social media, so and we got some traction, some first 100 or 200 people that were interested in that, following us, etc. And we had quite good user feedback. So we thought, okay, we can now put this live and bring this live and bring it to the next level, but we need some money for it. And so these first 3 months that Adam was referring to was basically after we got some money, and it was really 15K. It's nothing, but these 15K were supposed to help us within 3 months to bring it live to the app stores. And that's what we did. So I somehow raised, it was really hard. I talked to dozens of investors. No one wanted to give us money because I was very inexperienced. I had never created a business. I had never raised money. I didn't know who to talk to and how. But somehow then from two people, we got 10K and 5K, so 15K. We didn't have a company. We didn't really even have a real contract. It was more like a one-pager that we signed that, okay, if this is going anywhere, then you guys will get a percentage of the company for this money. That's it. And then we did get the money on our private bank accounts. We didn't have anything. And then from that, we paid basically Adam 5K a month for 3 months so that he could fully focus on that. I was still working part-time. And then April, May, June, mainly he was going all in from our MVP that we have, creating the apps on iOS and Android. And then in, I think, 1st or 2nd of July, one day after his son was also born, we went live with the app. We published it on the app stores, and that was also the first day I was out of my full-time job. So I also quit my full-time job, part-time job, I mean. And then from there, I was all in to Bitcoin to Relay. So from June 2020, I was all in Relay, and so was Adam. But we were broke again because we had burned through the 15K, right? And we both didn't have a lot of money individually back then. So yeah, that was kind of the story. And there were a lot of moments in these 3 months, but also before, and many, many, many afterwards, where we thought, this is the end. It's not gonna go anywhere. But somehow we just always resisted to giving up.
I think that's the main thing. Like when you see people that are succeeding, they fail so many times, and just like they just kept trying to do stuff. And obviously, like you're really young to be successful and have a company with 20 employees. And this would be also interesting to talk about. I think you have it also in your pin tweet, like now from the starting phase where you and Adam, and you started out and you basically have no experience, no money, and it's just an idea that kind of catched on to like fast forward a few years later. Now you secured like a next funding from I think it was led by Jeff Booth and Ego Dev Capital, but there were like 4 or 5 other funds involved. Where's really like right now, and where does really want to go like in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so from these humble beginnings where, we had this period of where we didn't have any money, so we couldn't really pay ourselves. We could not pay for anything. So we had this period where we were then starting to raise money. So we knew that, okay, we need, if this should work and if this should go from a hobby, which it was in 2019, to a project where it was in 2020, if it really should become a company and a full-time job for us in 2021 forward, then we need to raise money and we need to keep raising money so we can grow, etc. And so then I took this job basically on of being the fundraiser, and I knew from there on, one part of my time, part time, I would always be fundraising and talking to investors and selling the company to the outside world, etc. So that Adam also could focus really on the building and improving and developing, further developing the project and product mostly. So now how we got here was, I think that we made a couple of right decisions. We made a lot of mistakes, but also learned from that. But we made a couple of good decisions, and were able to build a culture that really appeals to users, followers, referrers, influencers, ambassadors, investors, partners, and everything in between. So it's a kind of a brand and a culture and the value sets that kind of attracts great talent, good investors, and all that. And really this mindset of, never giving up, always trying to become 1% better every day, not accept mediocrity, always going for the next level, always trying to think out of the box. How can we make things differently and better? Really with this desire of bringing Bitcoin to more people, because we truly believe that Bitcoin is the best savings technology and the best money that human beings have ever created. And we really, all of us relayers, want to bring more Bitcoin to more people. And so this helped us to always, even if the times were hard, always endure and never give up and always keep going and just make the next step, achieve the next milestone, and move on. So it was never a linear development. And these last 3.5 years that we were on the market, almost 3.5, almost 4. And it will also not be linear in the next couple of years. That's for sure. But what's also for sure is that we will never give up, and we will always continue. I think the success factors is pretty much that. And yeah, it's even though we have great investors now like Jeff Booth and Ego Death, or Alex Mann from Time Chain, or Mike Jarmuth with Lightning Ventures, and Oleg Mikulski with Fulgur Ventures. So a lot of great Bitcoin only funds, but also some other funds like Cabrit Capital. They're more crypto fund, but also really understood the Bitcoin only narrative. And Red Alpine, which is one of the biggest VC funds in Switzerland and also in Europe. And they're a general VC. They invest in everything between medtech, food tech, fintech, Bitcoin, crypto, whatever, everything. But it was definitely not easy, and it was also never like, okay, the next round is bigger and the next round is bigger and the next round is bigger, and in the end it looks like a success story, but in between there's a lot of ups and downs always. And there were things that we didn't necessarily, that was not necessarily great, considered great success. Also in fundraising, we sometimes thought, okay, we could have raised more or at a higher valuation, and we have lost a lot of investor negotiations or discussions. So it's not that we can always just say, okay, next investor, next, we want you, we want you. No, it's always super hard, even though we are now very close to profitability, making great revenues. We have 300,000 app downloads, 100,000 active users, 30 plus million monthly trading volume, so more than 1 million a day. It's really like, these are great numbers. We're growing fast, etc. Still, it's very hard for us to fundraise. It's always hard. From the outside, it always looks easy, but it's always much harder. And I'm sure the same will will apply for the next couple of years. But to answer your question of where I see Relay going, um, I think we really have the potential with what we have, the foundations we have built so far, that in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, we can go public in Switzerland. I think we can grow much faster. I really believe that the more we grow, the more we grow. It has been like that the last 3 years, that we grew several 100% every year. And if that continues, and I think it will continue, then we will be at a size in like 2 to 3 years where we can go public, where we can be traded on the stock market, and where we can also start making acquisitions, where we can also start growing beyond Europe as well, where we can have different, like expanding in terms of different customers, which we've already started. So from retail to affluent to now also private customers to also business customers, hopefully later as well, corporate customers, etc. All with the idea of bringing more fiat money and more people into Bitcoin, right? But then also expand in other geographies, and also expand in different products. So which we've also started. So we have the Relay app, which is a Bitcoin on-chain wallet and brokerage. Soon it will also be a Lightning wallet, so on-chain wallet and Lightning wallet, with different more features, and Relay Private, which is a service, an OTC advisory service that also caters to many more needs of these private clients, high net worth individuals and businesses in the future. And so these are the three expansion categories that we see, and that we just basically, based on the feedback of our users, will just expand and further develop whatever they are asking. And I think if we do such a good job as we did the last 3.5 years, and also in the next 3 years, especially because the market will also become better now that the ETFs are out, the halving is coming, etc. I think we are on the brink of a major bull market again in Bitcoin, and we will capture a lot of this growth, and will grow to a much bigger company that probably we cannot even imagine at this point now, and will be publicly traded, and also start doing acquisitions, etc., and hopefully be a bit of a competitor to the big shitcoin casinos like Coinbase, Binance, Bitpanda, etc.
That's I think that's just as an amazing story, and as you said, with the ups and downs, it's similar to it. I compared it in my head with like the Bitcoin price itself, like the Bitcoin story itself, because when you look back the last like 15 years, you're like, no brainer. I invest there and it goes up like crazy percentages. But when you're actually in holding Bitcoin and you see it going up and down and crashing 90%, going up 5x, like is a crazy hodling experience for everybody that is in there for like more than 5-10 years, especially. It's like I experienced those highs and lows, and like going up and thinking you're the best, and then being humbled the next time with 80% down. It's like this is experience. I guess it's a similar experience. I don't know, but I guess it's similar to like founding a company and going through this. Wow, we're amazing. We are so great. We are doing the best. We are conquering the world. And next month it's like, oh shit, we're going bankrupt. I don't know if it's like kind of
Yeah.
that, but I can imagine it's kind of like that feeling.
It's exactly that. And it's exactly like we have been in several situations where we thought we need to give up, where we thought we need to look for another job because we could not pay ourselves, where we were at the brink of bankruptcy, where we thought that maybe we need to lay off half of our staff. We were fortunately we never had to do things like that. So far, we always found another way, another solution. And I think that's also our strength, that doesn't matter what happens, we will always find a solution somehow. That's our strong culture that we have built. That's with the team and the situation we are in now, everything can happen and we will solve every problem. That's the big asset we have. But there will always be such situation. There have been many of these situations that are probably, they were much more severe than probably anyone from the outside can imagine, because and also I couldn't imagine to be in these stressful situations, with several nights of sleepless sweating and nightmares. Yeah, but that's just part of the story. And I think coming back to why would anyone do this? Why am I doing this? You need to be a kind of personality that kind of likes that going up and down, and that would get bored with continuous, happy just a situation that always is the same, but just continuous and happy and a bit boring, but fine. But satisfied? No, I'm a person that can never really be satisfied. I always want more, and I like these challenges and dramas, etc., that come when you just build a startup out of nothing in such a young industry as well. And I think most of our my co-founder for sure, Adam, and also most of our employees are like that. And I think you need to be a little bit almost born for this, and
Yeah,
it's good and bad things that come with it.
yeah, I mean, I can confirm with the three people I talked, like four people I actually talked to, like with Immo, with you, with Adam, and with Arsen, and we'll talk to more of the relay team. It's an amazing culture, and you see that spirit in the conversations on Twitter, in the pictures when you see the relay summit. I think you're also coming to Vienna. I think in April.
Yeah,
We'll be
yeah,
really close to me in Linz also.
cool. We should meet for a coffee.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually moving to Vienna in
Ah,
June, so
cool.
I will be like 2 months later. My home will be in Vienna, but
Very nice. 10th of April.
Coming back to relay, and sometimes think about that. I mean, there are always stuff to do, but when you see relay and other Bitcoin only exchanges, they are like kind of the bridge from the fiat world to the Bitcoin world. They are taking fiat from people and giving them Bitcoin back in the most simplest terms.
Mhm.
So what happens once people don't accept fiat anymore because nobody wants fiat anymore? It's like, I guess it's a far out future. It will be like, I think there are tens of years where like fiat is still a thing. There are other people that say like 5 years and fiat is dead. There are other people like 100 years will live on for sure. There are other people that will live on forever. But if you imagine there are more and more people coming on relay, more and more people switching to a Bitcoin standard, if you just think that thought through more, there will come a point where fiat is so small or just does not exist anymore. What do you imagine? I mean, it's really far ahead, but what do you imagine relay will do in such in a Bitcoin standard world?
Mhm. Uh, I think then the question becomes what is really your purpose as a company? Because if your purpose as a company is only like very transactional and focus on one product, then yeah, once this um, innovation development has happened and the adoption of this product or technology has happened, then you don't have a mission anymore and you die. But if you as a company have an overarching mission that goes a bit higher than just delivering a product to people, then you become a lasting great company that will ever grow and ever be dominant and do good change in the world as well, and be very profitable. So and I hope relay can become this. So when all the fiat in the world has been exchanged to Bitcoin, which by the way is 500-600 trillion fiat money in the world. So that's a lot of exchange and a lot of transaction commissions as well for us to earn. A lot of transaction fees here, as I see a big revenue and big profits to make. That's great. Um, but even then, and I'm with you, or I'm the opinion that this will take decades. This will not take 5 years. It will take several decades. So in my lifetime, let's say, already that just exchanging fiat to Bitcoin, I think is one of the best business models, and I think I will until I get my pension in 35 years. I think that's going to be the main thing we do. But also in comparing to other companies maybe that have the same problem, They have the great ones have figured out a way of serving serving people with the different innovation and technology phases, and always also be adapting themselves. So let's take Apple for example. They started in the, what was it, 70s, maybe 80s, and they basically with the mission of bringing personal computers to everyone. Now, in the 2000s, so maybe 20, 30 years later, pretty much everyone had a personal computer, be it a Macintosh or a Windows PC, whatever. But personal computers have become a thing, even though in the 80s no one would think that's going to be a thing. But then 2010, maybe, I would say most of the households had personal computers. Then you could say, okay, they just, Apple goes out of business because that was it, right? The mission is complete. But no, then what they did is they also created other gadgets that were in on the internet and helping the people living better lives, like the iPod, the iPhone. Then came the watch, the Apple Watch. Now they are building the Vision Pro virtual reality thing. They are also coming out with an electric car, self-driving car by 2028. They had the TV, the Apple TV, the AirPods, whatever you can think of, they have built. Always with just the overarching vision, mission, desire of making using technology and making the people's life better with this technology. Another maybe good example is Netflix. So Netflix started with just as a DVD company, so you can rent DVDs, etc. And then when DVDs was not a thing anymore, they switched to becoming a streaming service like they are now, and they will always be switching just around the vision that they have of bringing great entertainment to people. So their vision was not, or their mission was not bringing DVDs to people. Like this was the product. But when society and technologies changed, they also changed. And so they had an overarching vision, and still have, to bring great entertainment to people, and independent of the products and innovations, etc. So coming back to Relay, I hope we are building the foundations for this company to last decades or even centuries, because we don't necessarily bring Bitcoin to people or help people to exchange their dirty fiat to sound money, to Bitcoin. But maybe our overarching vision, and that's not, after 3.5 years, maybe we haven't really found yet the right vision, but it's maybe more to help people save their hard-earned money and keep it somewhere where the purchasing power stays and serves their future selves, and also the future generations, to handle their personal finances, whatever this will be. Maybe now it's fiat money, and now it's becoming Bitcoin, but then maybe in 100 years it's something else. So that's the thing. We're in the process of finding our big overarching goal and vision that will also endure these, maybe even the hyper Bitcoinization phase, etc.
That's a, I think that's an amazing answer, especially with the Apple example. And when you see what are they doing, what they started doing and what they're now doing. We're coming to the end of the podcast, where we have the previous guest is asking a question for like the next guest. And there's like this question, and I have an substitute question for that. If there's is this this is an interesting question. He said, I don't remember the exact word he said, what Bitcoin is, but if Bitcoin is kind of a shit converter, where like you throw stuff in it and something nice comes out the other way, what's the thing that comes out the other way?
Who was that?
Ian
Who
from
answered?
Questioning Bitcoin, the rabbit hole story host, one of the rabbit hole story. I think the co-host is even working at Relay, right? Jay from
Joel, yeah.
Joel, yeah.
I don't know if I understand the question right. So if Bitcoin would be this converter,
The
what
shit
would come
converter, yeah.
out?
What
Shit
what?
converter.
Like you
So
throw shit
shit
at
comes
it,
in on the one side, and then
what
what
comes out
comes
on the
out
other
the
side?
other? Gold. Making shit to gold.
Yeah,
I don't know, because fiat is basically shit and Bitcoin is gold, or making something valuable out of something that is not valuable.
that's
In
that.
my mind, I have this machine. I don't know how it exactly looks like, and then someone is shoveling shit in the first, on the left side, and on the right side, just gold comes out of it.
Yeah, this question are getting out of hand. I think I have to like randomize the questions because Arsen, I think the social media leader at Relay, he was asking, "Oh, who's the next guest?" And I said to him, "Yeah, it's Ian." And he said like, "Oh, ask him how is it to be bold." So I
Yeah,
think I have to
but
stop revealing who's the next guest is.
yeah, that might help. But in the case of arson, I think whatever it would be, it would have been a strange and shitty and funny question, independent of who is next.
Yes.
He's a funny guy. Arson is a very funny guy.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. I think I talked with him even after the podcast over an hour. So like he was really fun to talk to.
Yeah, yeah.
Then yeah, thank you, Julian, for being on. And the last thing, when people want to get in contact with you, where can people find you? Where can people get in contact with you, with the Relay team, the best way?
Yeah, so we try to be very open on every channel that we are active in. So I'm mostly active on Twitter or X, and on LinkedIn. So you can send me a DM there or tag me there or whatever, and I will try to reply. Email as well, just julian@relay.app. I do appreciate these in mails and messages, and I usually do reply to all of them. If it's not trying to sell me something, then usually I do ignore. But otherwise, I do appreciate and reply to these. So I think that's probably the three best. Otherwise, on our website anyway, it's a good that there are good resources. We have our own podcast. We have a newsletter that you can subscribe, and you hear from us weekly. Or just download the app and contact support. There's a support chat, and we're always happy to just also, answer questions and discuss there. So yeah, but for me personally, it's LinkedIn, Twitter, and email.
Yeah, thank you for being on.
Thank you, Robin. Great job.